What's up guys, my name's Brandon and Apple just released iPadOS 17, and in this video I'm going to show you all of the new features and changes that are included in the update. Now iPadOS 17 does include a lot, pretty much all of the iOS 17 features as well. So if you want to see all of the iOS 17 features, I just made a full-length film video on that, but this video is going to be specific to the iPad. Let's start with the lock screen, because now in iPadOS 17 we finally get the lock screen customization that we got on the iPhone last year with iOS 16. So from the lock screen, if you tap and hold, we get the same interface that we are familiar with on iOS, where you can add a new wallpaper right there. And we have this customize button down here in the bottom. And when we tap on that, we can customize either the lock screen or the home screen. Let's tap on lock screen. And now we have two different sections to customize right here. Up top are our little mini widgets where you can add in things like the weather, the date, and you have all these different ones you could choose, even Facebook and health right there. So we'll just add one in for my medications. Now it shows up there. If we tap on the clock, we can now change the font and the size of that font, the weight of that font right here as well, along with the different colors. And you'll notice this does change the color of the widgets over here on the left-hand side as well. It's all one color, and you can tap on this to really narrow down the color that you want all the way down to the hex color. I'm going to keep mine on this default one right there, and I'll change my clock to this one right here. That looks good. And you can also swipe over to get different effects right here as well. So if you have a wallpaper that looks good with these effects, you can choose to do that. And then over here on the left-hand side, we have our widgets. So we only have this one section for widgets. They are not underneath the clock like it is on iOS. But if we go over here, you can see all these different widgets that you have to choose from, both first and third-party options. So let's say we want to add in a calendar widget here, maybe a month view. So we're just going to take and drag this over here. And now we have a month view for the calendar, and we'll add in my Safari reading list as well. You can tap it or you can drag it. And we have a few slots left, so we can either do 4 small widgets like this size or 2 medium-sized widget like this size right here. So we'll go for 2 of those. We'll just do a reminder now for the small one, and now it is full over here, and you can see all of our widgets on the lock screen. Now we do also have these buttons over here on the bottom right, and if you tap on the 3 dots, that just shows your lock screen photo in the photo library. And if you tap on the photo, that allows you to change the wallpaper on your lock screen or your home screen. And then we also have this blue button where we can add a new wallpaper, and we have a couple of new ones here in iPadOS 17. So first off, up top we have some changes. So under featured, we have astronomy, where we have the different astronomy wallpapers. Those are the same ones that we see in iOS 17. We have kaleidoscope, which is also new. It's pretty cool. It looks really good on the big screen of the iPad, but my favorite one is the hello. So this is a cool one. Here's the iPadOS 17 wallpaper, by the way. Looks pretty cool. You have different color options as well, like a light and a dark mode. But if we go back to the hello here, this is my favorite one just because it's pretty unique, and it's kind of, it pays homage to what we see on the Mac with the hello on the Mac. So looks really awesome here. We do also have this where we can change the language to either all languages or preferred languages. So if we set this, let's just pick a cool color here. Let's just do a indigo. So let's tap on add. We'll set this as a wallpaper pair, and take a look at the really cool animation when we go from the lock screen to the home screen. Super cool. It kind of comes at you. It's kind of like a parallax effect, really like 3D effect. And when we actually lock our iPad and go back to unlock it, you will notice that it shows hello in another language every time. And it also has a cool animation when it says the actual hello in English. So I think this is pretty neat. Obviously, it's not for everybody. It's kind of more of a vanity thing, but I think it's pretty cool. And then we do also have this collection right here, which is pretty neat. So it looks pretty basic when you add it for the first time, but take a look at this when we lock our device. First off, you can see the effect there. The sky kind of changes when you go into the notification center and out. And then when you go ahead and unlock it, you have that effect right there. And with this change to the lock screen, we do also have live photos. So you could add a live photo to your lock screen, and also live activities show up on the lock screen. All right, so going into the home screen now, we do have some changes here as well. So first off, we have interactive widgets, just like we have on the iPhone. And I'm gonna spend most of this time in this video talking about iPadOS 17 specific features, not iOS 17 features, but I did just wanna mention this because the home widget is now so much more useful on the iPad now that you can actually change things from the home screen without needing to go in there. Like if I wanted to turn this light on, all I have to do is tap that and it comes on. Tap it again and it turns off. Also new in iPadOS 17 is the health application. So for the first time, we have the health app on an iPad. So This is actually really cool. I did not think this was going to be a big deal, but it looks so much better. The health app looks so much better on a big screen, especially when we get rid of the sidebar right here. You can see so much more data. I really like looking at this when I look at my sleep schedules and like how much I got, sleep-wise the previous night. I always load this up on my iPad because it just looks so much better on this big screen. Now we do also have the mental well-being here, which is new in iOS and iPadOS 17, and this allows you to log your mood throughout the day, whether you're having a good day or a bad day. So we go ahead right here, you can see we can change it from feeling very unpleasant all the way to very pleasant, and it kind of tracks that and puts it into a calendar view for you so you can see your state of mind over the past few weeks, months, or years. Okay, so now let's talk about a major change in iPadOS 17, and that has to do with Stage Manager. So if we go ahead and enable Stage Manager, and we'll just open up Safari, for example, you can see I already had this opened right here, but Stage Manager windows are now way more flexible. You can pretty much put windows wherever you want. You could see, I mean, there's pretty much no restriction here to the sizing for windows and also where you can move them. Take a look at this. It's almost like it's just a freeform. You could put this window wherever you want, which is a huge improvement over what we had on previous versions of iPadOS, and I am loving this. I just feel like I actually have freedom now when I'm using Stage Manager, whereas I really never felt that before. I felt so restricted. And also when you put a window over another one, you can see that it doesn't really shift like it used to. Like it used to kind of freak out back there. It shifted a little bit, but now it doesn't do that when you put it over another window. You can see it kind of just has this little effect on it, but it's not as drastic as it was before. We'll do it again with Freeform right here. You can see it moves over a little bit, but it's nothing crazy. The animations are just better here as well. And also if you have a Magic Keyboard or a third-party keyboard, you can now shift click on an application to bring it into your current stage, and you don't even have to resize it. And if we go into our settings here, we'll just make this full screen. And if we go down, we have a new section here called multitasking and gestures. And from here, you can see we have this multitasking menu up top where we can turn it off, split view and slide over, or Stage Manager. And we have all these toggles right here. And we do also have shake to undo, which is important for the home screen. If you move a widget somewhere and you didn't want it to move to that spot, or if you move an app icon to another page, but you wanted it to be somewhere else, you can now shake your iPad to undo that action, just like you can on iOS 17. So just major improvements overall to Stage Manager. And once you play around with it, you'll notice how big of a deal these changes are, especially being able to move to pretty much wherever you want on the home screen. Also in iPadOS 17, we have support for USB video class input devices, aka UVC input devices. And this means that you can now use an external webcam for your FaceTime calls, for your Zoom calls, for your Google Meets, any of that. So if you have an external webcam that has better quality, you can now use that. But the best part about having UVC support is that we can also now use this iPad or any iPad as a monitor for a Steam Deck, a Switch, or a console, just because we have UVC input. Now, it may not be the best display for like a PS5, but for example, for a Steam Deck or a Switch, this is going to be a bigger screen, so that could be actually really cool, especially while traveling. The Spotlight search has improved in iPadOS 17, so for whatever reason, I use Spotlight search a lot more on my iPad than on my iPhone, but this has gotten much better. So if we search for like settings, for example, we can see some of our more frequently used settings, and we can change the toggles for these right here in the Spotlight search without having to go into settings. And if I search for something like music, for example, it shows some of our recently played music along with the ability to play that song straight from the Spotlight search. Or if we search for notes, we now have a shortcut to add a new note without having to open up the Notes app first. We also have some nice changes to PDFs in iPadOS 17. So we have a PDF loaded up here on Safari. We're just going to open this up in Notes and take a look at this. We're going to save that, and we're going to go back into our notes here, and let's go right here to our non-disclosure agreement. And you will notice right away that the PDF opens up automatically. You don't have to tap into it to go into the PDF like you had to before. It just shows up automatically. You could also now select and highlight text. So if you go right here, you can see that we can highlight the text in this form, and we can also highlight it straight from within the Notes application. So if I wanted to highlight, let's just say this number 2 where it says exclusions from confidential information, we can highlight that, and you can see here, we'll continue editing, and now that part is highlighted on the PDF form. We can also now type on fields very easily, even if it's not meant for that. Like if the PDF doesn't even have sections where you can, select to type, you can do that with iPadOS 17 right now. So this line right here, there's nothing built into the PDF that would allow you to type in there, but we can do that now with iPadOS 17. It detects these lines and it makes it really easy to type in your information. And it's the same with annotating and signing with the Apple Pencil. So if I have my Apple Pencil, and let's go to the signature section right here. So where it says signature, instead of having to insert in your signature from over there, you could just go ahead and do this now straight from just right here. You can see I'm just signing it just like so. Obviously not the best pen to use, but I can now sign and just annotate freely with the Apple Pencil. And let's say we wanted to highlight the section where people need to sign. We can go ahead and highlight that. We can even change the color of the highlight. So if we wanted this one to be like red, for example, for importance, we can now highlight that red. And to take this a step further, we also have enhanced autofill. So this uses machine learning to identify fields in a PDF form. And this allows you to quickly and easily add details like names, address, or like an email from somebody that you have in your contacts, or just yourself. Like if you go to this one right here, you can see that you have the autofill for your own address if that is the case. And also if you are collaborating with somebody in the Notes application, whether it's a PDF or not, if you tap on the share right here, you'll also be able to easily call or FaceTime them straight from the Notes app. And something else that's really cool here in Notes, and this is not specific to PDFs, let's just actually go to another one right here. If we want to link to another note, we can now do that in iPadOS 17. So let's go down here and we're just going to do 2 greater than signs. So if we go to our symbols here and then put in 2 greater than signs, we can now link to another note that we have on our device. So this is especially helpful for when you are collaborating with another person and you want to cross-reference different notes. You can now do that. So we'll just link to the NDA, and now in this note we can simply tap that and it opens up that NDA in the Notes app. In the Reminders application, we have all of the same iOS 17 changes, but on the iPad I noticed that the column view is just so much better. So now in iPadOS 17, if you go into one of your reminders and tap on the 3 dots in the top right, you have view as columns now, and this changes the look of your reminders. And I find this to be so much more useful on the iPad than on the iPhone. I didn't care for this view on the iPhone, but you can now see, every section in your reminders much better on the iPad with column view. In the Safari application, we have a few changes. So number one, you'll notice in our favorites bar right there, we now have favicons, and that is able to be toggled on or off. So if you go into the settings here, and if we go down to Safari, we have a new toggle here for show icons in favorites bar. So if we turn that off, you can see that now those disappear. We just have the names of our favorites. But if we turn that back on, you can see that we now have the favicons for those. I find it to be a little bit much when we have the favicons for the tabs open, but that is nice and it makes it feel more like a desktop. Also in Safari, you will notice over here on the top left that we have this personal button, and this is going to be profiles in Safari. So let's open up this tab view right here where we can see we have personal and private, and then down here we have our profile. So that personal right there is because I have this set to profile. If I change it to main, it will now show main as my profile. And profiles are essentially just a way to separate your browsing history and your favorites. Whatever favorites you have up there can be changed on a per profile basis. So if we head into our settings and go to Safari and then go down to profiles, you will see we have our profiles right here. And it says profiles allow you to keep your browsing separated. You may want to set up a profile for work or school. Your history, cookies, and website data will be separated per profile. So let's tap on new profile, and now we can change this. Let's just say school, for example. And now we have these different icons that we can choose to indicate school. So we'll do that one right there. We'll make it orange. And by default, it gives us a new set of favorites. But if you want to use pre-existing favorites, you can choose one of these right there, but I'll keep it as a new school favorites. And then open new tabs. You can do this on the start page, or you could have that set to a different mode. So we'll go ahead and tap on done. And once we're in here, you can see that we can also change these settings anytime we want. And we also have extensions. So you can enable or disable extensions on a per profile basis as well. And again, you could always change these when you're actually in Safari straight from this section right here, and it changes dynamically. You can see that the start page has also changed. This changes on a per profile basis as well. If you want to change that, just go go to edit right here, and you can change the background image for that specific profile. And again, all these settings right here will only be toggled on for this specific profile. I find this to be really useful for a lot of reasons, but I can also see it very useful for, if it's like a family iPad and you have multiple people using the same iPad, you can have a different profile per person. We have a few new updates for the Freeform application, which has become my favorite iPadOS application, mainly because of this new brush right here. This is the watercolor brush, and that's actually what I drew all these characters in with. That's what I colored them in with, was this watercolor brush. I think this makes Freeform so much better when you want to color or just draw in things. It's awesome. So we have that one, and then we have the one right next to it, which is new as well. And you can see this one is called the fountain pen. And this is really good for if you want to write something out. Like if I want to write my name, it's a really cool effect for handwriting or just writing text out. There's also this new pin right here, which is a variable width pin. So you can change between different widths for this pin. And this is going to be another one that's going to be good for writing text. We have a new highlighter tool right here. So if you wanted to highlight something in the yellow color, you have different strokes, you have different opacities for that highlight. And you can see it's a very satisfying, very smooth highlighting pen. And then we also finally have a ruler. So I'm not sure why it took Apple so long to put this in the Freeform application, but now you have a ruler to make things straight and even. We now have shape recognition. So if I go ahead and draw a circle here and I hold, you can see it will make my circle a little bit more perfect than it was. So if I go ahead and do another circle right here and hold, we now have shape recognition. That one wasn't good enough. We'll do a triangle. And there you go, you can see it makes it better. So this is what we had in Notes for a long time, but now it's available as well in the Freeform application. We also have much better external display support. So if you use your iPad on an external display, it's not only much faster to connect to the external display than it was on iPadOS 16, but also you can now multitask using Stage Manager without any lag on an external display. It is much better than it was on iPadOS 16. And then also one last one I wanted to mention, even though this is a feature in iOS 17, is that verification codes that you receive by email now autofill just like they do with text messages. And they also auto delete just like they do on iOS, as long as you tap on it from the autofill section. So those are the changes in iPadOS 17. Again, the big one is going to be related to Stage Manager and PDFs and Notes. Those are my personal two favorites, but of course we do have quite a few other ones as well. Again, there are a lot of other changes in this update, but the other ones I didn't mention are in iOS 17. This video was focused mainly on iPadOS specific features and changes. So if you want to see all of the iOS 17 features and changes that you also have on the iPad, I will leave that video linked up in the cards in the top right and also down in the description below. But if you enjoyed this video, I would appreciate if you gave it a thumbs up. Also, make sure to subscribe for more iPadOS videos and iOS videos in the future. But anyways, guys, thanks again for watching, and I'll see you soon.